Imagine if the gateway to Boston's elite was actually 1 plus 1, I'm ruined for punching a director's kid. Expelled and blacklisted, then the universe hit reset. Brain power tanked by 1,000, leaving me on top. Overnight, I became the only person who could think. Booted from Oak Ridge for standing up to a bully. My old man begged every school, but they refused. Our Hail Mary was the legendary Pioneer Elite class. No test states, so I had to wing the interview. Dad, what's on the exam? He just shrugged. Just wing it, he mumbled into his pasta. A failure outshining the city's greatest minds impossible. I'd be a joke. That night I hit books, drowning in calculus until my eyes literally bled. My brain fried. How could I survive this elite test? I passed out, then a weird digital hum started. Easy mode buzzed as the morning sun rose. 2 bacon bagels and a black coffee, please. $5.50, right? The food truck guy just stared. You're wrong, kid, he said, looking at me strangely. It's $5. We use round numbers for math. Nobody can do math. Is this guy having a stroke? Checked the menu. Every price was flat and simple. It was different yesterday. No time to argue, though. Sprinted into St. Jude's and nearly choked on coffee. The room was packed with high-level academic assassins. Drones with thick lenses and vacant 1,000-yard stares. Ponytails and thermoses looking oddly blank and dim-witted. Shaking ready to bolt, I saw my neighbor's notes. Multiplication to 50. I thought it was a joke. Geniuses relaxing with primary school math. No way. To my left, a girl hyperventilated over poetry. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? She couldn't finish it. My brain was short-circuiting. Had the pressure snapped the city's smartest kids? Interviews went by in a blur, clearing the room. People came out sobbing, looking completely war-torn. Heart hammering against my ribs, I stepped inside. Mr. Mitchell looked ready to jump out a window. Oak Ridge Public regular track. He didn't even look up. Let's get this over with. Look at the screen. 5 minutes, 80% to pass. Go now. Staring at the board, I felt struck by lightning. Simple arithmetic, 1 plus 1, 15 plus 7. The elite test, 24 plus 16. You're kidding. I stared at the paper, my jaw nearly hitting the floor. Are you serious? I stammered. Is this second-grade math? Sir, please tell me this is a joke. Are these really the interview questions? Indeed, Mitchell scoffed dismissively. Around him, the other faculty members were already zipping up their bags and heading out for a pepperoni slice. Was I being punked? Where were the hidden cameras? Was this some twisted social experiment for TV? Had the entire planet just lost its collective mind? Whatever. If they wanted a performance, I would give them one. I took a deep, steadying breath. My hands blurred across the digital tablet. No thought was required. It was pure, raw muscle memory and reflex. Question 1, 2, 3. Moving at light speed, answering every 2 seconds, I slammed through all 20 problems in under a minute. The departing staff stopped dead in their tracks. They gaped at me, eyes bulging like they had seen a ghost. Everything is correct. The proctor's voice cracked as his trembling hands reviewed the final score. Mitchell, caught mid-stand, collapsed back into his leather chair. The arrogance in his gaze vanished, replaced by pure shock. Fascinating. You managed the kindergarten fundamentals. Let's see if you can handle the real challenge. Continue. The screen flashed with a fresh set of trivia. Complete the famous Shakespearean verse, to be or not to be. Define a palindrome. Name the first United States president. They were treating me like a toddler, and it felt insulting. I typed the responses with effortless grace, ensuring every single letter was perfectly in place without a single typo. The room went ice cold. The veterans glared at the rookie who had drafted the exam with suspicious intensity, assuming he had leaked the key. Full marks in 30 years, I have never seen such impossible perfection. Mitchell's fist hit the wood with a bang. He shoved his chair back and stormed toward the front podium. He scribbled a supposedly impossible boss-level problem, 3x minus 5 equals 17, solve for x. A collective gasp went up from the faculty. Mitchell, seriously, that is way too advanced. You cannot expect a student to solve that. I glanced at the daunting linear equation, completely unfazed. Honestly, I wanted to howl with laughter. My sense of reality was already in tatters. I felt a strange numbness. Without even touching a notepad for scratch work, I took a half-second breath. I grabbed the stylus and marked a 2, total silence. You could have heard a dust mote hit the floor. Mitchell stood paralyzed, panting like a cornered beast. He had pulled that problem from a university-level textbook. After tweaking the variables for a custom challenge, there was no way I could have seen it before. Solved in an instant, only the mythic great minds were capable of that. Show me. Show me the work. He stammered, his knees buckling. I just shrugged, feeling a wave of pity. I spun back to the board and jotted 3x equals 12x equals 4. X equals 2. Mitchell gawked at the ink, his chest thumping like a drum. With quivering fingers, he grabbed my file, retrieved his heavy official seal, and hammered it onto the page with a thud. Mr. Silas, you have passed. Welcome to the elite ranks of the St. Jude Pioneer Program. Pedaling home with my golden ticket in hand, I watched the world go by with new eyes. An icy shiver crawled up my spine. Storefront signs were a chaotic mess of random capital and lowercase letters. It was linguistic anarchy. No personal vehicles existed, just a sea of identical yellow cabs. A retriever stood in line with cash in its mouth, buying lunch. This was not a joke. This was real. Reality had shifted. Back at my desk, I spent the entire afternoon scouring the web for any logical answers. The truth was terrifying. Global intelligence had plummeted. Complex thought had become a relic of the ancient past. Most people were operating at a level below your average house cat. Simply put, I was living in a kingdom of idiots. Progress relied solely on a handful of freaks called geniuses. As of now, there was not a single one left. The last true mastermind died 300 years ago. It meant my average high school brain was essentially a god-tier weapon. I was the smartest man on earth, an unstoppable, overpowered protagonist in a world of simpletons. Meanwhile, back at the St. Jude Academy office, the teachers were still whispering in fear. Mitchell's eyes were glued to his Harvard portrait. He was once the math golden boy who breached those elite forbidden archives. But the sacred texts of the masters were suddenly gibberish to him. His pride crumbled, his sanity snapping like a dry twig. He'd slunk back to Boston in total shame just to teach. He white-knuckled his phone, replaying the principal's report about my history. The Oak Ridge principal's words didn't add up, and his face was a mask of pure shock. With that kind of brain power, cracking a black-budget code, how could he leave zero evidence of his past brilliance? He fumbled for a smoke, but shoved the Zippo, straight into his mouth. I had clearly broken his brain and his cool. That night, the old man stumbled home. "Open up. Why is this thing locked? I'm here." He started pounding on the wood like a madman. He had his keys, of course, but he'd left them at the site again. I swung the door wide and plastered my acceptance letter right on his forehead. His eyes nearly took flight as he dialed his boss. To beg for his job back and volunteer for the next road gig, we were mid-celebration when the news flashed a red alert. A serial killer was stalking Chicago, with 5 victims already found. The police were baffled by the killer's methods. In this world of fading minds, how could a genius predator even exist? We just shrugged it off as another sad headline, never suspecting the nightmare that was lurking just out of sight. The following morning, I showed up at Mitchell's office exactly on time to start my first day. "Assessment first," Mitchell muttered, locking us in before sliding a paper across the desk. I scanned the questions and nearly laughed at the elementary level math. I finished the whole thing in under 10 minutes and slid it back. When Mitchell grabbed the sheet and turned away, his fingers were shaking like he'd seen a ghost. He fought for every breath, trying to stay calm while leading me upstairs. The hallway hummed with students chanting their lessons. Everything went quiet when we reached the top floor's elite pioneer class. He pushed the heavy door open. Inside, over 20 kids were slumped over their desks, the room filled with the rhythmic sound of heavy snoring. "Up, everybody, up! We've got a new student!" Mitchell barked, slamming his fist against the chalkboard. I took a seat in the back. The blonde kid in front of me, Chris, immediately spun around to gossip. "Dude, which god did you pray to? He didn't even make you take the surprise brain drain test." Chris started pointing out the stars. "See 4 eyes over there. He can actually subtract 3-digit numbers in his head. That girl knows 10 poems by heart. And look at Chloe by the window. She's the queen of knowing stuff." I bit my tongue. In a room of idiots, the one-eyed man is king. This pioneer group was all about intellectual freedom, meaning the teachers had basically given up on us. The wall posters were a joke, claiming genius was pure luck without any hard work, signed by Edison. Edison's dates were listed as 18 million plus. What a joke! The guy supposedly lived for eons. I grabbed a history book from the shelf and started flipping. Opening a history of 5 million years, I saw Egypt began over 1 million years ago. The dates were ballooned 1,000 times, though the actual events remained the same. Imagine humans struggling for millions of years just to master fire. When the bell rang, everyone bolted for the exit. I was halfway out of my seat when something hit the floor with a sharp plastic thud. It was a 3x3 Rubik's Cube that had rolled away from Chloe, the class sweetheart. I scooped it up. The thing was ancient, and someone had barely managed to finish a single mismatched side. People still used these. My fingers began to twitch with muscle memory from my old speed-solving days. Up, down, left, then right. My fingers were a total blur. The patterns fell into place like a perfect liquid stream. That's when Chloe walked back into the room. Her water bottle hit the linoleum with a heavy splash, soaking her shoes instantly. She stood frozen, gawking at the solved puzzle in my hands, her pulse hammering visibly in her throat. Sorry, it just slipped out. I felt totally out of place. You solved it. She sounded like she'd just seen God. Well, obviously. I tossed the solved cube onto the desk in under 30 seconds. Chloe ignored the puzzle and snatched my wrist with surprising force. She panted like a broken machine, a frantic fire burning in her eyes. Is she losing it? Suddenly, I felt like I was in deep trouble. I tried to pull away. She jumped back as if I were electric. She stammered, asking for my name. Silas, she whispered, sounding completely dazed. Her eyes screamed desperation. Then Chris kicked the classroom door wide open. Big news, guys, he yelled. Our class genius just jumped ship. Patrick got poached by Oak Ridge High. The whole room went nuclear. State finals are next week. Oak Ridge is desperate for those Ivy spots. They bought Patrick just to babysit some rich kid during the finals. From the back row, I spoke up. He's just a hired gun. That one bit of logic dropped the room into a heavy silence. In this world of declining intelligence, my basic observation felt profound. Mitchell called me in. Silas, Patrick's gone. I need you to step up. He stared me down. Just show up. Do not worry about the answers. I smirked. Just show up. If only he knew the truth. If I actually played, I would bury those Oak Ridge punks in the dirt. Where do you want to go to school? Mitchell asked me again. Columbia. It is nearby. He shook his head, rejecting the idea immediately. You are too talented for that. Win this and I will get you Harvard. I will guarantee your admission. Harvard. Now things were getting very interesting. Back in class, Chris leaned in his face, full of gossip. What did he want? I told him I was replacing Patrick. He froze. Mitchell is a snob. Why would he pick a complete nobody like you? Whatever. With me and Chloe, we will carry you to the trophy. He looked at Chloe and his jaw hit the floor in shock. Why did you move? You never give up that window seat. Her face turned crimson. It is too drafty over there today. Chris scratched his head clearly, not buying her pathetic excuse. Drafty, it is 85 degrees. I ignored the idiot and walked out. Biking home, I felt a heavy gaze burning into my back. I turned and saw Chloe trailing me on a rental bike. What is her game? I squeezed the brakes and waited for her. Follow me often. Do you live around here or something? Want to come over? She looked like a deer in headlights. No way. She jerked her bike around and pedaled off frantically. I laughed and turned into the alley, heading for my front door. Minutes later, a white sedan began to shadow her every move. Need a ride? A man asked. Chloe knew something was dead wrong. She pedaled hard, but she could not outrun a four-door engine. He lunged, grabbing her hair and slamming her against the pavement. A chemical-soaked rag cut her hair. She went limp almost instantly. At home, I realized the world's history was a total fabrication. I posted on Reddit, "Hey guys, what do real geniuses eat to stay sharp?" The internet trolls are tearing me apart, sneering that a loser like me has no business even mentioning geniuses. One comment dared me to check the core if I was so smart. That name sent me straight to a search. 10 millennia back as society hit a dead end, 28 masterminds emerged at once, spanning every discipline imaginable. This collective of titans built a singular godlike machine, the core, the ultimate artificial intelligence. It archives the sum of human knowledge behind impenetrable digital walls, accessible only to those with top-tier intellects. Intriguing. I killed the power and drifted into a heavy slumber until dawn broke the next morning. A shrill, violent ringing shattered my dreams. A voice on the other end demanded, "Is this Silas?" "Boston PD calling. Your friend Chloe's been snatched in connection with that Chicago serial killer investigation. We need you at the station right now." My heart hammered against my ribs as reality crashed in. Slumped in a hard plastic chair at the precinct, I scanned the file. The suspect, Thomas, was a simple woodworker. 8 weeks ago, he literally upholstered a chair with his own family. Now he's hunting high school students. He sends a 3-day death clock via text to every victim. Chloe is number 6 on his hit list. Chloe's grandma was a wreck next to me, nearly collapsing as she white-knuckled the sleeve of my coat. She thought I was some hotshot investigator pleading with me to bring her girl home. That look of pure agony, it set my soul on fire. In my old reality, a sick freak like this would not have lasted a day. But in this world of dimwits, the cops are following a 14,000-year-old manual like it is the Bible. Dealing with a calculating predator who knows how to hide the local law enforcement was getting run in circles. Leaving it to these idiots meant Chloe was a walking corpse. I am the only one left with functioning logic. I was the only wild card that could win this game. I bolted upright and stormed into the command center. I stared down the lead investigator, Detective Sarah, demanding her full attention. I'm Silas, St. Jude's Pioneer Class, Criminal Forensics Major. Hand over the case files. In this town, Pioneer Class meant you were the smartest person in the room. Sarah shoved a classified folder and a wastebasket toward me. The crime scene shots were a nightmare of blood. Swallowing my vomit, I combed through the data. How do you know we are not looking at a copycat? She did not answer, just hit play on a surveillance monitor. A white Ford pulled into an alley. Some guy stepped out holding a blood-stained note up to the lens. It read, "A sacrifice for the heavens." Then he just vanished into the shadows. He drove right in. It was a direct taunt, Sarah muttered, her jaw clenched tight. The problem is both exits were under constant surveillance, yet he never came out. The car just blinked out of existence. No exit, no trace, like it was never there at all. Think, I snapped. Any dead zones did a semi-truck pull out that could have swallowed the Ford? Maybe a cargo container? Sarah stared at me like I was some kind of freakish alien. She grabbed that ancient FBI manual, frantically searching the pages for an answer. But your theory isn't in the book. No kidding. Is everyone's gray matter turning to sludge? I did not have time for this. I marched into the main briefing room, slapped the table, and took charge. Get the tapes from yesterday on the monitors. 16 times speed. Now, the tech crew jumped to their stations. After 60 minutes of fast-forwarding, a red sedan appeared. Freeze it right there. I pointed at the screen. Where did that red one come from? Just a local resident, an officer mumbled. It is irrelevant. I let out a dry, frustrated laugh that chilled the room. I leaned in, tapping the screen for emphasis. Irrelevant? Are you kidding me? Check the window seals and the tires. There is overspray everywhere, red paint he did not bother to wipe off. It is the same exact chassis he hid in a blind spot, rattle-canned the white car red, slapped on some burner plates, and drove out the front door. The room went silent as a grave. The cops stood there, mouths agape. This kindergarten-level trick was like black magic to their hollowed-out minds. Sarah exhaled slowly, then turned to her team. Silas is in charge. Find that red car before she's gone. Under 10 minutes later, the lead went cold. The red sedan's owner was actually miles away on business. It had been sitting in a locked garage for days. I slumped back, my mind racing through the static. Scour the city cams and track that car's exit. Hit every rotting factory and ghost town on the map. Ready 2 thermal drones, a tactical squad, and our top sharpshooters. We move when the sun sets. Twilight arrived as the clock started. Simultaneously, across the city, the auditorium for the state decathlon was packed. Chris showed up solo, looking isolated. He cut a lonely figure in his high school varsity jacket as he entered the staging area. That's when Zachary appeared, the spoiled director's son I'd previously forced into a humiliating dropout. He was strutting forward, flanked by some mercenary brainiac they'd hired to win the trophy. Look at this. Where's the rest of St. Jude? Did that little brat Chloe finally ditch you? I heard she's currently being carved up. Zachary grinned, his face slick with grease. Chris stayed silent. Then he exploded. A vicious right hook connected squarely with Zachary's jaw. The bully let out a pathetic shriek, skidding across the floor in a heap of bruised ego. Blood sprayed from his nose. You're dead. Do you have any idea who my father is? He was howling now, clutching his shattered face in absolute shock. Chris pinned him with the boot, shoved his phone screen into Zachary's face, and hit play. His voice was pure ice. Listen to me, Zachary. 153 million in dirty campaign cash. That teacher you crippled at 13. The two kids you drove to suicide at 15. I can end your family's legacy tonight. Zachary's world crumbled as he stared at the screen. All that inherited pride evaporated instantly. He was nothing, just a coward facing a genius who owned his entire future. Shut your mouth. Chris looked down at him with total disgust. Know your place, bottom feeder. He didn't look back. As Chris walked toward the arena, Zachary just lay there shaking with a new kind of terror. Meanwhile, in the shadows of a decaying industrial park on the outskirts of Boston, I was huddled in the tactical van, eyes glued to the thermal feed from the drones. The world had gone dark, then a tiny flicker of life. A sickly yellow glow appeared in a broken fifth-story window. Got you. I keyed the mic. Snipers lock in. Assault team prepare to breach. I grabbed my glass and hit the dirt on the opposite rooftop, focusing on that light. Inside, Thomas was stroking a custom-built oak chair with the tenderness of a psychopath. Look at the joints, baby. Handcrafted perfection, not a single nail to ruin the finish. I tweaked the dimensions just for you, Chloe. Your skin will fit this like a glove. Chloe was a ghost bound and gagged, dying of thirst and sheer terror. Her eyes were hollow. Time to start, Thomas whispered. Let's test how much that skin stretches. He pulled a razor-sharp carving blade from his pocket, smiling with a terrifying sincerity. He closed the distance. Chloe thrashed against her restrained steers, carving tracks through the grime. Take him out, I snarled into the radio. Take the shot right now. Negative, no line of sight. The sniper's voice crackled back, sounding desperate. He's using her as a shield. If I fire, I hit the girl. I can't pull the trigger. Damn it. Thomas was already touching her arm, the cold steel biting into her skin. A breach would be too slow. He'd open her throat before we even hit the door. I needed a distraction to break his focus without causing a panic kill. Then it hit me. I remembered the recording I'd found earlier, audio from the wife and daughter Thomas had lost. Tactical, check the work group, I yelled into the microphone. I just sent a file. Play it on speaker max volume right now. 10 seconds go. Through the industrial graveyard silence, a distorted melody drifted on the breeze. Happy birthday. To you. A mother and child's harmony bled through the walls. Thomas froze, blade hovering, icy dread drenching his spine instantly. The haunting melody swelled against the window. 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday, Daddy surprise. I saved every penny for this knife. A girl's sweet voice haunted the ruins. Mary. Honey, is that really you? Thomas's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. Like a man possessed, he let the blade clatter to the concrete. I didn't. The heavens demanded it, I loved you. His sanity finally fractured completely. He collapsed weeping like a broken child scrambling toward the glass. He'd left the hostage. His chest was now perfectly centered in the crosshairs. Send it. Sniper, take the shot! I screamed, my vision tunneling with adrenaline. Boom! A suppressed crack shattered the midnight air. A 7.62mm NATO round pulverized the glass with lethal physics. Thwack! The spinning, copper-jacketed lead tore straight through his heart. A crimson spray painted the wall. Thomas folded like a discarded rag choking on foam. He died wondering why his twisted gods hadn't shielded him from a simple bullet. Confirmed, I muttered, tossing my optics aside. Stack up medics, you're on deck. Long gun, stay on him. If he so much as flinches, put another one in him. I didn't wait. I was already hitting the stairs. The door flew off its hinges as the team cleared the room. Thomas was history. Chloe was a wreck, shivering and vacant. Someone cut her loose and pulled the gag. She looked up and the dam broke. A soul-crushing sob erupted. She lunged into me, burying her face in my tactical vest, soaking it with tears. I'm not the hugger type. I just stood there, awkwardly patting her back. You're safe now. It's over. The paramedics pushed past us. They loaded her up. Detective Sarah, the lead on the case, caught my eye. She gripped my shoulder. Silas, I'm in your debt. Seriously. Get some rack time. I'll have a cruiser drop you off at home. I didn't argue. The 48-hour adrenaline dump was finally catching up to me. The heater in the patrol car and the suburban wind were a dangerous lullaby. The radio flickered to life. Scores are neck and neck between Oak Ridge and St. Jude High, but the pressure is getting to the favorited contender. Chris just fumbled a crucial calculation, handing the lead back to Oak Ridge. My eyes snapped open. That absolute moron Chris. All that trash talk for this, I rolled the window down to let the cold bite. Change of plans, officer. Take the next right. I've got a different war to win. At the venue, Chris stared at problem 28. His face was twisted in a knot. Oak Ridge was a three-headed monster led by Patrick. A real snake. They were a well-oiled machine letting Patrick do the heavy lifting. Chris was a solo act and his mental gears were starting to smoke. His lead had evaporated. Then the 28th prompt flashed on the screen. Solve for x times using 4x521. Chris checked the clock. He was drowning. He gritted his teeth, ready to go down. He was purely gambling, his finger trembling over the D key. Right before he clicked, I clamped my hand onto his wrist. I reached around and slammed the B button. Correct chime. The screen flashed green. I stood over him, gasping for air while smirking. Man, you're trash. Take 5. I've got this from here. Chris whipped around, eyes nearly popping out. Silas! Where's Chloe? Handled, I told him. She's safe now. I chugged half his water. What's the damage? We're dead, he groaned, trailing by 3 points. 10 minutes left. It's a wash. I just smirked. A wash? Watch me turn this around, he scoffed. Keep dreaming. Meanwhile, Patrick from Oak Ridge froze at the chime. Zachary's face twisted in pure shock. No way. Silas. That bottom feeder, he definitely cheated his way onto the team. Patrick sneered. Cheated, you think, St. Jude's? Is that easy to play? Still, he wasn't worried. St. Jude had 8 minutes to make up 3 points. Impossible. He had no idea he was facing a god. In this world of idiots, I was king. Next question. Right triangle legs are 6 and 3. Find the hypotenuse squared. I didn't even look at the provided formula. I instantly tapped C, another perfect score. Time under 5 seconds. The stadium went dead silent. Then the crowd erupted. The announcer lost his place completely. It seems Silas has some incredible luck today. Everyone thought it was a fluke. Even Chris was staring. Are you burning your soul for luck? I just leaned back. Pipe down, wake me for the next one. Question 30. Buy for 8, sell for 9, rebuy for 10, sell for 11. Profit. I didn't even fully open my eyes before hitting B. Bingo. 3 logic puzzles destroyed in seconds. The crowd went wild. Over at the Oak Ridge booth, things were freezing over. Patrick was sweating bullets. This is impossible. The math doesn't track. He tried to focus, but he choked on the math. Oak Ridge's timer hit 0. They stalled at 27. My turn. Question 31. Snail A does 1 meter hourly. Snail B does 0.5. B starts 3 hours early. When does A catch up? Is this a joke? I typed the answer instantly. Ding! Correct. You can't call a fill-in-the-blank a lucky guess. This was a slaughter. He's cheating? This is rigged? Zachary was throwing a tantrum. Patrick looked sick. They stormed backstage to protest. The game ground to a halt. The crowd buzzed, certain I'd stolen the entire answer key. Chris gripped my shoulder, whispering that they were flagging me for a major cheating scandal. What's the move? He asked. I didn't blink, telling him to let them investigate everything. Innocence didn't need a defense. Suddenly, Patrick kicked the door open and entered our room. He cornered me with a cold glare. I'm handpicking your next set of exam questions, he spat. He flicked a silver thumb drive onto my lap. In exchange, you're taking this deal. He claimed it held 10 years of Zachary's father's financial crimes provided I let him rig the test. The code is yours after the final buzzer, he smirked. I caught the drive, weighing the metal. I didn't care if it was real. Burying Zachary was easy. I just wanted to see his genius trash. I was ready for his games. Deal, I said, sinking back into my leather chair. 10 minutes later, the lights dimmed. The host announced that Patrick from Oak Ridge would curate the finale. The massive LED screen flickered. Patrick's first attempt at a death blow finally materialized before the crowd. It was a horrific system of equations using alien symbols that seemed to have no logical connection. Chris turned pale, muttering that the jerk was going for the kill. Nobody solves that in 10 minutes. Watch me, I whispered. My eyes scanned the icons and I punched in the digits instantly. A loud chime signaled success. The audience let out a collective gasp that shook the entire stadium. Next 35 heads and 94 feet trapped in a pen. How many pigs and chickens are there? The room fell into a stunned silence. To them, this was an ancient, unsolvable riddle from antiquity. They treated it like a legendary Ivy League theorem that would baffle a tenured professor for 30 minutes. I didn't touch my notepad. 2 seconds of mental processing was enough before I slammed the enter key. Bingo. The board updated, locking us at 27 to 27. Patrick snapped. He began hurling everything from obscure literary quotes to complex cellular biology at the screen. He dug through the darkest corners of European history and niche sciences, desperate to find my limit. He tried to drown me in data, but I returned every single volley in under 3 seconds. It was a total massacre. By the end of question 39, St. Jude hadn't dropped 1 point. We led at 33 points with 3 minutes left. Backstage, Patrick collapsed into a heap of defeat. His hands were shaking. He finally realized he wasn't competing against a student, he was facing a god. In a final act of desperation, he triggered the system's most notorious, unsolvable paradox to stop me. A wall of text appeared, a legendary riddle supposedly left behind by Sir Isaac Newton centuries ago. A boy borrows $50 from each parent, buys shoes for $97, and keeps $3. He pays each parent $1 and pockets the last one. Now he owes them $49 each. 49 plus 49 is 98. Add his $1 and you get 99. Where is the dollar? The math nerds in the stands started losing their minds the moment that logic trap hit the screen. The crowd erupted. Chris just groaned. "That's the Newton riddle," he hissed. "It's been unsolved for decades. How are you supposed to calculate that?" Even the visiting professors looked defeated, certain that this mental maze was impossible to escape within the time. Looking at the screen, I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing in their faces. Puzzle of the century, please. This was a tired social media brain teaser from my middle school days. I couldn't believe these geniuses fell for a semantic trap designed to confuse debt with physical assets. You don't add debt to cash. That $98 liability already includes the single dollar the boy held. Bored of the drama I typed, this premise relies on a fundamental logical fallacy. It is void. Searching for the missing dollar is mathematically meaningless. The missing dollar simply does not exist. I slammed the enter key. Backstage, the director stared at my answer in total soul-crushing confusion. He didn't understand it, but he was desperate to end the circus, so he manually marked it correct. It was over. St. Jude took the championship. A roar of applause shook the stadium. Chris and I stepped onto the red carpet for the gold. Patrick slipped past, whispering 8-8s under his breath. He bolted. Suddenly, a new figure blocked my path. A sleazy guy in a bespoke suit flashed a fake smile. "I'm Julian from Wellington Academy. Let's get acquainted, Silas." Chris shoved himself between us, cutting the guy off. "Little Julian," Chris smirked. The boy looked shaken. "Silas has a brain tumor. Talking causes him agony." "Walk with me," Chris said, dragging me away. "I'm dying." Chris just glared at Julian's retreating figure. "Stay away. That man is a goddamn parasite." I was dazed as Chris pulled me onto the stage. A host thrust a microphone at me, demanding my secrets. I couldn't admit my reincarnation, so I just lied. Read books, keep burgers, and sleep. That's the secret. These geniuses actually took notes. This world is doomed. Afterward, a girl named Lauren approached me blushing. She wanted dinner and my socials. I agreed instantly. I fell into a deep sleep the moment I got home. Meanwhile, Oxford University was descending into absolute madness. My note on that paradox gave Professor Rhodes a breakthrough. My words sparked a massive scientific frenzy across the globe. Detective Sarah handed me a thick envelope of reward cash. The killer's diary revealed a horrific descent into delusion. Thomas thought a con man was a messenger from God. Lucky stock tips convinced him he was the chosen one. He was told to sacrifice his family to the gods. He built a throne from their bodies. It was sickening. The conman filmed the slaughter, laughing at the moron. He mocked Thomas's IQ. People are truly terrifyingly gullible. I told Sarah to track the money and the cameras. I left Patrick's flash drive on the desk. Evidence. It proved Zachary's father was laundering millions of dollars. That family is headed straight for federal prison now. I went to the hospital, stopping for fruit nearby. The vendor tried charging $18 for rigged oranges. I spotted a heavy magnet hidden under his scale. I grabbed 2 grapefruits, planning my own little scam. $39, he said. I handed over 100. He gave 61 in change. Time for the switch. I have 40. Give me that $100 bill back. He took the 40 and returned my $100 bill. He waved as I called the fraud department on him. I made $21 and got free fruit. Justice. Chloe was reading a book on 36 ways to trap men. She saw me and her entire brain just froze. Chloe finally confessed her absurd plan, fake gratitude, then dinner, then drama. Next, a manufactured life-or-death crisis to force a deep bond between us. Finally, a rainy night sob story to make me her loyal protector. I rolled my eyes. "Is the drama here really this lazy?" I interrupted. "Stop the theater. If you want something, just say it. No more fluff. She listened. Tearing up, she admitted her parents' deaths were no accident. They were silenced. As investigative reporters, they'd uncovered a terrifying global conspiracy. They found a nation of geniuses and evidence of a massive intelligence-based purge. Someone used artificial famines to eliminate low IQ populations. Only one group could. The core, a shadow organization controlling world data. When the story broke, their office was seized, their colleagues incinerated, and her parents died in a crash. Chloe begged me to help, claiming only my intelligence could defeat them. Seeing her red, swollen eyes, my heart began to pound with dread. This was a suicide mission. I just arrived here. Why risk it all? Why fight global terrorists? I peeled her hands off. I refuse, I said. I have people to protect. I'm not joining your war. I walked out. I left her broken, but in the lobby the scene stopped me cold. Patients in gowns lay everywhere, gasping for air on the hospital floor. A panicked crowd begged for help, but the whiteboard halted everything. Data error, all prescriptions halted. The entire hospital had simply stopped. An old woman collapsed. Her grandson began frantically bashing his head against the tile. He was sobbing, begging for help, his blood staining the hospital floor. The avoidable tragedy made my chest tighten. I couldn't just walk away. I grabbed the child and showed my St. Jude identification to the guard. I'm a data analyst from the pioneer class. Let me in now. To him, I was a savior. He handed over the keys immediately. Inside, 2 doctors were pacing in a state of pure frantic terror. A file glitch scrambled every record. One wrong dose would kill someone. Their only specialist was in New York, leaving them completely and utterly helpless. Is this an Excel document? I asked, looking at the frozen monitor. They stared blankly. I moved to the computer and saw the massive icon. I almost laughed. The spreadsheet was color-coded, but the rows were jumbled. I hovered over the filter in the header and checked the settings. Someone had sorted names alphabetically, while the data stayed sorted by color. Because of one stupid mistake, people were dying in the hallway right now. Without saying a word, I smirked and fixed the broken spreadsheet. I clicked the filter and resorted the name column by color. 1 click. Instantly, the data aligned. The doctors began shaking with pure ecstatic relief. They grabbed my hands, offering me cash and medical school admission. I pulled away, looking at the hopeful eyes of the little boy. Tragic. Even with their minds degraded, these doctors still cared about life. I patted the child's head, turned around, and walked into the night. That evening, Lauren treated me to dinner at a posh place called Le Ciel. We were laughing when a sharp, mocking voice cut through the air. Well, is that the little orphan boy trying to act rich? Henry intercepted my sudden swing. Home, he was nothing. Go measured human worth. Elite schools meant royalty. Henry smirked at my struggle. Status is the only power. Thugs closed in, cracking knuckles. Stop. Julian dragged a chair. He mocked Henry's ignorance. Silas won the state championship. Henry's phone confirmed the news. He feared the celebrity student. His spite targeted Lauren. Take her! My blood boiled. Julian threatened his brother's rank. Touch her, he is finished. Henry's pride broke in fury. He gritted teeth and conceded. Stay, I barked, slamming wood. Want me broken, Henry? Let's settle this with go. I'll quit if I lose. Henry spun around, eyes greedy. Lose and you beg me. Kowtow twice. Dare to bet. My friends begged for caution. Henry was pro. He smiled. He doubted my board skills. The luxury board was set. Henry won the draw starting. He held stones triumphantly. He played center. I frowned. Opening Tengen was an insult. I played a star point. The stone clicked. Room silenced. Julian looked absolutely deathly horrified. Henry exploded into mocking laughter. Lauren feared I had failed. He's clueless, Julian whispered, terrified. I was baffled. It's basic. Henry laughed, playing his second. His strategy was complete garbage. I ignored him taking corners. Another star point. Perfect placement. Invincible. These people are insane. Henry shot me a look so thick with pity it was insulting. He claimed begging wouldn't save me, then dropped a third black stone right next to the center point. 3 black pieces sat in a perfect row. I stared at them, my heart skipping a beat. My brain felt like it had been hit by a freight train. Who plays the world's most complex game like this? I spun around to Julian, my voice cracking under the pressure. What exactly are we playing? Julian stared at me like I'd lost it. Are you high? It's obviously Connect 5. I stood there paralyzed, looking at those 3 stones with a face more twisted than a Picasso painting. This prick was using a museum-grade board to play a child's game. My mind felt like it was exploding. Connect 5. All that talk about rankings and professional masters, it was all for this. A simple game used to kill time back home was treated like a sacred high society art form here. My grueling mental showdown with Henry had been nothing but a fight against a ghost. I turned back toward him one last time just to be absolutely sure. This is definitely just Connect 5, right? Henry sneered back, clearly questioning my sanity. He'd never even heard of real strategy. Fine. New world, new rules. I can do this. Henry tapped the wood, demanding a move. I clicked a white stone into place. Row 10, column 8. I shut down his open line of 3 immediately. Henry gave a smug grin. Go ahead and struggle. I want to enjoy watching you drown. He dropped a stone at 10-12, creating another threat. I countered at 10-13. Beside us, Lauren frantically whispered to Julian, asking if there was any hope left. Julian kept his voice low, saying things looked grim and the deficit was probably too much to overcome. He told Lauren to prepare an exit strategy, fearing Henry would target us the moment I lost. Lauren just shook her head, insisting she had total faith that I'd pull through. Her confidence fueled me as Henry's moves grew more aggressive, 3 lines appearing at 9-11. He thought he had the noose tightened. Without blinking, I played 11-11 to kill his momentum. Henry started applying heavy pressure with constant threats. I followed every move, barely keeping my head above water. I acted like I was suffocating under his lead, but Julian's worried face began to shift into pure confusion. Only I knew the truth. Henry was a puppet, placing his stones exactly where I needed them. 10 moves later, his hand hesitated. He finally realized something was fundamentally wrong with the board. He'd started with a massive lead, yet despite his perfect aggression, I hadn't left a single opening. Not one gap. He went dead silent and I let out a soft, cold laugh. I tapped a specific intersection on the board. What's the matter out of ideas? Play right here. It's your only shot at a winning line. Henry's face turned a violent shade of red. His black stones were boxed in his early lead, completely evaporated. He demanded to know how a loser like me managed this. I didn't even bother looking at him as I let out a long bored yawn. If you're terrified, just quit, or stay and crawl out of here on your hands and knees later. I really didn't care either way. Don't bullshit me, he screamed. Henry's eyes were bloodshot with rage. You think you've already won this? Not a chance. I ignored him, shifting my white stones from a wall into a lethal, coordinated counterattack. My lines began to multiply, forcing him back. Lauren saw the tide turning and let out a breath. Julian's expression became unreadable. The final stone hit the board with a sharp metallic ring. Game over, Henry. He sat there, frozen for a heartbeat, before exploding in denial. I haven't lost. That's just a single line of 3. I can block that easily. Julian cut him off, his voice heavy. Look at the diagonal line of that last piece, Henry. Henry's voice died in his throat as his body went rigid. I'd set a perfect trap. 2 lines of 3 intersected perfectly. The winning stone was sitting right on the star point. That first piece, it looked like a total fluke, Henry choked out. Was this the plan all along? I let a small smirk slip. I wasn't looking 20 steps deep. I just played defense and nudged you right where I wanted. This finish just felt more poetic. Henry's jaw tightened with a sharp pop. Lauren finally exhaled, her white-knuckled grip on her own hands, finally letting go. I locked eyes with him. Pay up. Or do we need to start tossing people out for you? Henry's expression turned lethal. A jagged, mocking grin spread across his face. Pay? What bet? He snatched our written contract off the table and shredded it right in front of us. He shoved the scraps toward his muscle. Torch it! My blood turned cold. You're backing out of the deal. Henry pulled a face of pure fake confusion. Backing out, I have no idea what you mean. The whole damn room saw the signature, Lauren barked. Henry just beamed at her. Bring 'em over. Let's see who's brave enough to cross the Sterling name. He brushed past me like he'd already won, leaning in to whisper every syllable. Take your time, Silas. I'm not going anywhere. Julian watched him walk away with a heavy sigh. There's no winning. His family's Crown Strategy Club has everyone in their pocket. If he says it never happened, it never happened. At least you spooked him. He won't be coming for you tonight. Small victories, I guess. Lauren fumed silently while I looked at the floor, weighing my options. I snapped my head up. Julian, how do you burn a club like that to the ground? Julian froze. You challenge them. You walk into their house and break them. Take the house, exactly. The World 5 in a Row Association rules are clear. Humiliating their elite squad means the club gets shut down. That's why Boston only has 1 throne. I nodded. I get it. Julian's forehead creased with worry. Hold on, you aren't actually thinking about taking on the crown, are you? Why not? Don't be a hero. If you lose, you're on the hook for their bills for 10. Take just 10 years plus a lifetime ban. They've got multiple 7 Dan masters waiting for you. And an 8 Dan. I just shrugged. No point in being scared of numbers. Lauren searched my face. Silas, tell me you can do this. Easy. I'm not losing. All right, I'm in. But I'm the reason this mess started, so I'm coming along. No way. Don't try to ditch me. Either we go together, or I'll just follow you anyway. Darkness fell, but my thoughts were spinning as I stared at the ceiling. This place looked normal enough, but underneath it was far more lethal than the life I left behind. Street cleaners are punching bags for the rich, and working-class guys can't even get a burger. Black market blood clinics and missing posters everywhere. It's a caste system built on IQ and greed. The elites hold every card, leaving nothing but scraps for the rest of us. Moving up is a pipe dream. Guys like Henry and Zachary back home, they were just spoiled brats. Here they're monsters. I wouldn't be surprised if they've literally gotten away with murder. Then there's Chloe's Core, a shadow group that wipes out whole nations without a trace. It was too much to process. Exhaustion finally dragged me under, but just before I crashed, I glanced at the old photo on the wall. My mother's eyes were so kind in that simple dress. Night, Mom. Tuesday morning arrived like a freight train. The Crown Strategy Club. I checked my phone's map and looked at the massive gates. It screamed old money, gold letters etched into marble, flanked by 2 towering stone pillars. Damn, they aren't kidding around. Silas, you made it. Lauren was waiting 50 feet off her white hoodie and skirt, bright against the grey stone. I was annoyed. I told you I could handle this alone. If you hadn't insisted. On tailing me like a spy, I joked as she flashed a smug, knowing grin. So why the distance, scared? She squared her shoulders, ready to snap back at me, but ended up just whispering, maybe a little. Just keep your head in the game. I flicked my fan open with a sharp crack. Soon enough, they're the ones who'll be shaking. I aimed a spray can at the expensive marble pillar and tagged it with one word, trash. Garbage, junk. I hadn't even finished the last stroke before a kid in a crisp uniform, Ben, I assumed, sprinted out from the lobby screaming, "What the hell are you doing?" Care to explain? I just smirked. Isn't it obvious what we're doing here, kid? His eyes darted from me to Lauren, then settled on the crimson insults bleeding down the stone. He spun toward the lobby and screamed, "We've got a crasher! Call the 7 Dan Master out here!" Oliver caught the news and let out a cold, dry chuckle. How long has it been since? Anyone dare just throw a trainee at them. Let the kids have some target practice. 5 minutes later, Ben scrambled back inside, looking like he'd seen a ghost. "Sir, he lost." Oliver snapped, lunging to his feet. "Move! I will handle this hack myself!" He stormed into the VIP lounge. I was sprawled across the velvet couch, spinning my fan. Ben looked like a corpse in the opposite chair. Snap! I popped the fan open for effect. Oliver gave me a long, icy stare. "I'm Oliver," he growled, "a 7 Dan pro player. Say you're sorry, scrub that pillar, and I might let you walk out of here today. Skip the theatrics. Your charter says I can take on 10 club members in a row. 1 loss and I'm out. That warm-up counted as game 1, right?" Oliver's brow furrowed deep. "You realize what a total failure means here. Perfectly. Then why are you still standing there?" "To collect. Your director's kid Henry owes me a debt, and he's dodging my calls." Oliver went quiet for a beat, dismissed Ben with a wave, and dropped into the seat. "Round 2 is with me. Choose." He scooped black stones, hiding them in his closed fist. "Odds," I called out. He opened his palm. There were exactly 4 stones sitting there. "Wrong again." He claimed the black stones and slammed his first piece right onto the center. The center star. Without blinking, I dropped my white piece directly adjacent. The war began. A dozen moves flew by like lightning. Just then, Julian and Sophie slipped in, looking worried. Julian's face went pale when he saw my opponent. "Wait, why is he playing against Oliver?" Sophie leaned in close. "Is he that good?" "Try legendary. He's a 7 Dan god." 30 stones in, and it looked like Oliver was hunting me. I was just scurrying to survive. But Oliver's jaw tightened. He realized his trap was empty. He was down to 1 line. I'd quietly choked out every other route. My board was a powder keg, yet I hadn't struck. I was playing the perfect coward. Smack! I dropped another stone, sealing his fate. I killed his final threat, then I started weaving my fringe pieces into a massive web. It was a loud, arrogant offensive, basically a sign saying, "Here I come, try and stop me." Oliver's forehead was dripping. He hadn't felt this kind of suffocating pressure since he was young, facing off against Master Victor, the world's top pro. But I was just a teenager. Dozens of stones landed in a blur of motion. I was puppeteering the entire board now. Oliver froze his hand, hovering over the wood as he realized he was cornered. Name's Silas, right? I was wrong about you. You're terrifyingly good. Yeah, I'm aware, I replied flatly. You could have ended this in 10 moves with your talent. The room exploded into whispers. Oliver rapped his knuckles on the table to silence the crowd staring at me with respect. Stop playing around. Show me what you're really capable of. I just offered a sad smile. I dropped the piece way out, far from the fight. It seemed random, but Oliver went white. Lethal angle. I bridged 2 hidden pairs from earlier. 4 became 5. You planned this 10 turns ago? He rasped, shaking. I was finished before we started. I surrender. After he folded their 8 pro got crushed too. I wiped the floor with everyone. Then Sterling showed up. He flew his jet back, begging legendary Arthur for help. Just then a booming voice echoed through the hall. Who is this punk beating my men? I turned around. 2 suits emerged. Julian gasped. It's Victor the Saint. The world champion. Why was he here? Victor scanned me. You're the kid who broke my pros. I flicked my fan. That's me. You're next, old man. He laughed, but I wasn't scared. Not even a little. It's just a game. But Lauren panicked about the rules. He's not a member, she cried. Victor glanced at Sterling. I'll join for today. Deal? Sterling almost hit the floor. It's an honor, he gushed. I cut off Lauren's protesting. If they're bringing in ringers, I'm raising the stakes. Sterling, if I play him, I want half your fortune. Stocks lend everything, plus Henry pays for what he did. Done, Sterling snapped. He didn't think I could win. Board set. I took black and opened dead center. He defended, but I went straight for the Puyue kill. A guaranteed win from my world. Victor was good though. Better than the others, but still just a confused student. He saw my moves but couldn't grasp the math. He blocked every line, or so he thought. Every defensive move he made only paved my way. Move 37, I dropped the piece. Double threat. Game over. Victor sat there paralyzed by the loss. I gave 100%, Victor admitted. I'm beaten. The room exploded. A teenager just killed a god. He's a monster! The girl screamed, hugging in joy. Sterling looked like he'd seen a ghost. Then he smirked. He rushed over with a fake grin. Boss Silas. I blinked. I'll start the paperwork immediately, he beamed. Half the profits and the deeds are yours, boss. He was trying to buy me. I knew the game. A kid this good is worth billions. Fine, I said. I needed his clout. Handle it, but about Henry. Consider it done. Guards dragged Henry out pale-faced. You slum rat, he screamed. How did you win? You belong in the gutter. He lunged, but they slammed him. I stared at the wreckage of his face. Pathetic Henry. I walked away as Sterling barked. Dump him in Alaska. Lie about a vacation. It's a graveyard. That night, everything shifted. I was lounging when Marcus hit my line. Beer, now. We met in a dark dive. He chugged his. They swiped my college seat. I almost joked. All this for junior college. He was grave. High rollers stole my future. My smile died. In this world, everything's rigged. Most fail early. A degree is a rare weapon. High school is elite. College 1 in 100. I'll handle it. 2 days later, the web melted. The king of chess just fell to Google's AI. Humanity mourned. Then the master made a promise. I'm second best. I'm bringing in the real monster. The world searched for me. Then my phone buzzed. It was Arthur. Silas killed that machine for us. I hesitated. A computer is a perfect wall. You found the glitch. Only you can win. I refused. He whispered, the machine is hollow. Lose, and we are all just biological echoes. Then he offered 200 million euros. 200 million, count me in, for pride. And the massive check. I'm ready. 2 days later, the Federation was a circus. I flashed my pass. The security guard froze. You're the mystery? The news crews missed me. Inside the tech team looked like they'd seen ghosts. The director stared. This hoodie kid is our savior. The feed went live. The world screamed. A teenager. Is this a prank? I faced the terminal. Odd. 3 stones. I am black. I strike first. I hit center. The AE blocked my usual path. I swapped tactics. The machine wasn't ready. Move 20. I severed its logic. Odds plummeted. Move 27. Game over. I took round 1. Victor cheered so hard he soaked the room. The director panicked and begged for a break. They studied my data. It didn't help them. Round 2. I was playing white this time. The coin flipped. Odd. I was on defense. My stomach dropped. The machine mirrored my soul. It used my own moves. I fought, then fell. 1-1. A tie. The nightmare began. This was the final showdown, not just for 200 million euros, but for human dignity. A coin flip. Odds. 2 markers hit the board. Playing white again, the machine took black and a wave of hopelessness washed over the crowd. I exhaled. Whatever, at least taking 1 round proved humanity wasn't completely helpless. Losing 200 million euros would sting, so I dropped my piece, casually playing for fun. The AI hid the center, I countered. It immediately crowded my stone, mimicking that polar star strategy. It's a fast learner, no doubt. But wait, I froze. The machine's logic relied on shapes calculating purely for the most aggressive positions, or defense. So what if I just made a play that was completely useless? A total throwaway stone with 0 strategic value. The AI's database wouldn't have any code for dealing with pure nonsense. No brilliant mind would ever play so fundamentally stupidly. But the rules didn't forbid idiocy, I smirked. If logic failed, I'd just be illogical. I'd go off script. I gripped a white stone, a grin spreading across my face. Click. I placed it diagonally, creating a bizarre, nonsensical horse jump pattern. Below the stage, Victor's brow furrowed in total confusion. He couldn't fathom the trash move. Even the processor lagged before resuming its attack. I ignored its threat, dropping another stone to extend my weird, jagged line. Everyone thought I'd snapped. By move 48, Victor's eyes suddenly widened in shock. "My God," he whispered. "The spacing between every white marker is perfectly consistent. Exactly 4 squares apart. As long as the black pieces stayed within my coverage, they could never reach 5. I'd unleashed a gridlock matrix to break artificial logic. It was built specifically to baffle algorithms that only understand direct conflict. The computer didn't realize I'd caged the board. I was walking it like a puppy. Move 60. A double threat. Victory. The entire stadium erupted in absolute madness. The board's deity, a 17-year-old, just dismantled 3 million years of strategy. I accepted the trophy posed for the flashes and soaked in the win. Clutching the 200 million euro check, I stepped into a roaring Ford truck's path. Crash! I lunged back on instinct, adrenaline screaming as metal shredded my arm. My skull hit the pavement. Arthur wasn't fast enough. The surrounding reporters went silent. Men in suits swarmed me, dragging me away. We weren't heading to any hospital. They tossed me into an armored van, hauling me to a subterranean military bunker. I woke to a guy named Agent Carter, hovering over my bed, battle ready. "Welcome to the UNG," he said. "We protect geniuses." All for a board game. I held my head. "It's bigger than chess. Princeton verified your Newton paradox fix. You're the only true genius among 8 billion people on the planet." He tossed a folder. "Silas is dead. Why announce my death? Standard protocol. Our rules are written in the blood of those we failed." I didn't push. High-ranking brass were arguing about the hit and run next door. I walked right in. Generals with medals to sink a ship stood up, staring like I was a god. General Collins, a 3-star heavyweight, treated me with unsettling quiet reverence. They'd spent 3 days hunting Zachary. But 10 minutes after the crash, they snagged a coded transmission from the domain. My mind began racing. I looked at them. "Did you sweep the truck keys for prints?" They hadn't. "Go to my house, grab Julian's card, match those prints against the keys." An hour later it was confirmed. Julian. That silver-spooned brat was faking it. Collins barked the order, "Grab him now. This gentleman act is fake, and he's not alone." But the scouts reported the penthouse was a ghost town. I smirked. "Fine, I will just ask him myself." I dialed. "Time to talk, Julian." Only a long, heavy silence met me on the other end. He tried to sound shocked, but it was pathetic. I was not in the mood. "Drop the act, Julian. You are sloppy. You think this is a social call. Our birds in the sky track every pulse in real time. The satellites are locked." I hung up as 3 Apache gunships swarmed his location. I stood on that roof, the rotor wash from the helicopters nearly tearing my clothes off. Feeling the weight of the whole country's arsenal behind me was a rush. Then bang! The door splintered. Julian walked out with his hands up his designer suit, soaked in blood. "Had to silence a witness," he said. We sat down together like old friends sharing a drink. He tossed a soda my way. I let it hit the ground. "Silas," he began, "there is a glitch in the world." I focused. What the hell was he talking about? He saw my face and gave a thin smile. I knew you would understand, he whispered. He mentioned some secret notes Elias Vance left in the back of a vintage tech book. Vance built the core. To guys like you, real geniuses, the world just looks different. I stayed quiet. He finished his drink, stood up, and moved toward the ledge. He stopped at the very edge. You are leaving, I asked him. I cannot let my partner go first and stay behind. Tell the people you killed I am sorry. I have nothing to apologize for. I followed the plan. Then he just leaned back. He dropped like a stone, silent. A second later, a sickening thud rose from below. I lingered for a beat before heading to the bird. Carter's voice buzzed as long as you breathe. The domain stays buried. But what about the other crews out there hunting us? 5,000 years ago, the domain wiped out anyone who ever dreamed of touching a genius. That is some extreme protection. Carter told me it was time to kill the name Silas. If you stay Silas, everyone you love becomes a target. You are putting them in the crosshairs. I nodded. 24 hours later, I was at the most expensive funeral home in Boston. I stood in the back, hidden by shades and a mask, staring at my own memorial portrait. They used my old high school ID photo. I felt completely and utterly hollow. Watching your own funeral is a trip. The room was packed with the world's most powerful elites. The governor, tech billionaires, industry titans, all there. The AI director looked like death itself. He mourned his fallen computer program, its logic fried. Lauren stood by the door in black. Her eyes were raw from crying. Sophie held her up. Marcus was drinking in the corner. He was wasted, face red, clutching those white flowers like his life depended on it. I pulled out a burner and hid them with the text, "Stop the waterworks. I am still kickin'." Lauren checked her phone, froze, and then dragged Sophie out with a look of pure fury. Marcus went still, then a massive grin split his face. He started scribbling in a notebook. 10 minutes later, he took the stage looking heartbroken. He told the room we were childhood friends. To honor Silas, he said, I have some stories. My eye began to twitch uncontrollably. I was done for. He told everyone how I would sing Miley Cyrus songs half-naked at 3 a.m. He mentioned the locker room peeping and the time I blew up a sewer and got messy. I was shaking with rage. Silas was dead, all right. He just got socially executed. The news looped my death for 2 days until Carter scrubbed every bite of it. 2 months later, my digital life was gone. The internet forgot I ever existed. I put on thick glasses and became Evan, a fresh-faced kid starting at Harvard. 90 days later, I was on an Amtrak heading north to start over in Cambridge. The budget coach reeked of generic perfume and unwashed bodies. A young mother huddled in the corner. I stepped forward. Mom, why are you sitting on the floor with a newborn? She whispered that seat 27 belonged to her, but someone was occupying it. I glanced over. A woman in a designer suit was acting like she owned the train. Her son sat beside her looking smug in an expensive corporate outfit. You are in her spot, I noted firmly. She looked up with pure disgust. Like I was a bug. You expect me to move for this nobody. Stand up, this is her seat. The entire carriage went stone silent. Her son scanned me, sensing I wasn't just another laborer. He stayed icy. He was arrogant. Look, friend, we have a multi-million-dollar meeting in Boston. Why should we cater to someone who contributes nothing to society? Nobody spoke. They were used to being crushed by the wealthy elite. Suddenly she spotted the university insignia on my leather folder. A Harvard student, I confirmed my identity. Does that change things? My name is Evan. She let out a cold, sharp laugh. She pulled out her iPhone and dialed the dean of the business school. Hello, Dean Hastings. A freshman named Evan is being incredibly disrespectful. Expel him immediately. She hung up, looking totally satisfied. She sat there like royalty. In 10 minutes, your academic career is over. You will get the notice soon. That is the cost of crossing me. I just grinned. I reached up and tapped my hidden earpiece twice. I patched into the global security line and gave a short command. The mother started crying, begging them not to ruin my future for her. I stopped her. Do not worry, Mom. I handle trash like this daily. Minutes later, her phone rang. She answered it with a triumphant smirk. She hid the speaker. The dean's voice was shaking with terror. Claire, you idiot, you just threatened someone the government cannot touch. That $60 million deal is dead. Your family is officially bankrupt. Her face turned ghost white. She gripped the phone as her world collapsed. She was trembling now, staring at me. I just leaned against the wall. I shoved my hands in my pockets and flashed a perfect cold smile.